What's going on YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we're back with another fight breakdown. This weekend, Jaime Munguia is going to be facing off against Ryder. This is going to be for like a WBC silver title up at super middleweight. The fight is going to be on dazn. It's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern, and I will be doing live commentary for this fight. All right. Overall, I think this is a pretty good matchup. I think the timing of it is right. Jaime Munguia, in my opinion, has been in like the last 5 or so years, is probably one of the best. He's probably been one of the, as far as matchups and the timing of who he's been facing, it's always been the right time to face certain people that he's faced. I think if he faced some of these guys maybe earlier in their career or earlier in his career, it probably would have been a bad matchup or probably more likely to lose some of these fights. And I think he does have 1 or 2 gift wins, but he's still undefeated. He's 27 years old now. Ryder's 35. He's coming off his most difficult fight against Sergey Deverenchenko, and I know Oscar and Golden Boy's looking to place him in there with like a Canelo Alvarez. I know at 160 they was trying to push to get the Triple G fight. Again, it's all based off timing, and I think if they were really willing to throw him in there with someone that he could possibly lose to, it would be a bigger fight, like a Triple G, like with a name fight, or Canelo Alvarez. This is going to be his second fight at super middleweight. His last fight was at super middleweight against Sergey Deverenchenko, who has been fighting at 160 most of his career. All right, so it's like both guys went up to 168 and fought at 168, but it was more experience for Jaime Munguia, even though he almost lost that fight. That was a very, very close fight, and I think because of the knockdowns, probably what edged him to win. I don't remember what the scorecards were, but I do remember that that was one of the better fights of the year when they did face each other. All right, and I think that was back in. It's been some time. It was last summer. All right, last June. All right, so look. When it comes to like doing film study and just looking at the two fighters, I think one of the biggest things that is unknown for this fight is how Jaime matches up against a southpaw. All right, he's only fought one other southpaw against Korea, which wasn't really. It was more like a tune-up fight, and it's a recent fight, but it was one of the fights that he had just to stay busy. He'll take a tough challenge here and there, like Turiano Johnson was pretty tough at that time. I think, obviously Sergey Deverenchenko was a pretty tough matchup for him as well. But for the most part, he's fought guys that you kind of knew he was going to win all the time. I guess since I first saw him against Saddam Ali. And even then that matchup, the timing was perfect. Saddam Ali, in my opinion, just really didn't even belong at 154, and wasn't even that great of a welterweight, but he fought Cotto at the right time, and then Jaime destroyed Saddam Ali at 154, becoming a champion. Fighting guys like Liam Smith, which was a good matchup at the time. A tough, close fight. Again, another fight that was very, very competitive for him. And then he had other fights where let's look down his records. I don't want to. Dennis Hogan. Dennis Hogan's a fight that I actually personally thought he lost that fight against Hogan. I think Hogan actually won a decision, but the fight was out in Mexico, and that was one of the fights where I think he got a gift win. He had fights with Gabe Rosado, who was a pretty competitive fight. That was a pretty good matchup at that time. But again, Jaime Munguia, as far as matchmaking is concerned, Golden Boy has moved them very, very carefully. He's a fun fighter to watch because he has a lot of dog. We saw the Toriano Johnson fight, which was wild. The Sergey Deverenchenko fight was a wild fight as well. But this is a more challenging fight. It's not the best fighter at 168, but Ryder has been in there with Canelo. He's been in there with Callum Smith, Danny Jacobs. He's been in there. He has his couple of losses and such, but he's been in there with a lot of good fighters. And one thing about Ryder, outside of the one KO earlier in his career, He's been a pretty durable fighter, strong fighter, a career super middleweight, and this is a good test. And everybody's trying to get the Canelo fight next. We don't know who Canelo's going to face. I do think that if Jaime is to win this fight, I think he does have somewhat of a chance of facing Canelo. I don't think Canelo's going to fight David Benavidez next. I think David will probably be at the end of the year. I think Canelo's probably going to get one more fight in there before he gets that fight with David Benavidez. Regardless, I know everybody, including myself, really wants that fight. But, I think Canelo is going to take what fights he wants before he takes another really tough fight. And I think that's going to be one of his toughest fights. But John Ryder is solid, man. He's a solid boxer. And he's a tough dude. I think he has solid power. He's very, very durable. He's crafty. He's experienced. And this is a good fight after coming off the Derevyanchenko fight to show where he's at. And I think a lot of Jaime's fights are basically how does he look against a common opponent of one of the other top champions in 160 and now at 168. So again, the biggest question is how does he do against a southpaw? One that's a lot more sturdy, a lot more durable, a lot more experience in John Ryder. And when it comes to John doing breakdowns and doing predictions in the past of his fights, I didn't think he would beat Callum Smith, but I also thought that Ryder won the fight on points. I think he should have got the decision. I don't think he should have gotten the decision against Danny Jacobs. I think Jacobs edged him out in their fight. And then going to Canelo fight, even though the fight wasn't really that competitive, Canelo for the most part dominated that fight. It was one of those fights where Canelo kind of slowed down in the second half, and Ryder did rally a little bit in the later half of the fight. And he was knocked down in like the fifth round. He was bloodied up in the first half of the fight. He was taking a beating from Canelo, but he showed his durability. He went and got up in the fight and continued on and went the distance with Canelo. So it was a good performance from him as far as him showing his toughness. But he's coming off of that loss. And being 35 years old right now, Jaime being 27, you gotta wonder, like, I think John Ryder has a good shot in winning this fight. But you got to wonder, coming off that kind of fight, that kind of punishment that he took against Canelo Alvarez, how is he going to look in this fight here, And Jaime is a dog. One thing about Jaime, he's a dog. He likes to exchange. He likes to trade. He likes to battle and get really physical in there, you know what I mean? High volume, a lot of pressure. Not the most technically sound fighter. Good power. But you got to wonder, now he's fighting a legit super middleweight in John Ryder. This is not Derevyanchenko that was moving up with him. This is more like a guy that is experienced in the division. So, as far as what I'm expecting Jaime to bring the pressure, be more high volume, try to make it a slugfest. I think John Ryder is going to be trying to work more off the counter, displaying better defense, being durable, and, this fight being a firefight at certain points because John Ryder has some dog in him. I think for John Ryder, in order for him to win this fight, he's going to have to press the action a little bit more, because I do think this fight is going to go the distance. Both of these guys are pretty durable. Munguia did get hurt a lot against Derevyanchenko. I think he's gotten hit with some good shots in the past, and he did get hurt like against Turiana Johnson. He hasn't been down. But I think John Ryder has the power to hurt him with a good counter. But it's more about being aggressive and trying to finish him off. And even though John Ryder could fight a dog fight, I think Jaime Munguia is going to be mainly the aggressor in this fight. So I think John Ryder should do what he normally does, definitely work on the counter. He's good at smothering his opponent's punches on the inside. He's good at closing the distance. You've seen it against Canelo Alvarez. You've seen it against Callum Smith, where he had pushed Callum Smith against the ropes and smothered his punches. I think John Ryder should try to take that approach against Jaime and try to force him to go fighting off his back foot. That's where Jaime doesn't really shine at. And I think that's what John Ryder needs to do. John Ryder needs to come forward and make Jaime fight on his back foot or keep Jaime against the ropes so he doesn't be, he's not going to be as explosive. Whereas Jaime, I think Jaime needs to keep moving, circle the ring and looking to try to ambush John Ryder. Of course, I think his biggest weakness is sometimes he comes straight in. He'll just be bouncing and bouncing, and then he'll just lunge straight in. And a guy that's a decent counterpuncher like John Ryder is going to catch him, time him, especially with that left hand, with the right hook, check right hook, step around him. John Ryder definitely has the tools to kind of throw off Jaime's rhythm, and that's what he needs to do. But is he willing to do it? Jaime is going to try to make it a firefight, and I think that's Jaime's best chances of winning is by making it a firefight, being aggressive. Yes, he's going to get hit. How durable is he going to be? John Ryder can punch, but he's no KO artist or anything like that, right? So I think Jaime overall, he's a younger fighter. He's fighting a 35-year-old guy that took a lot of punishment from Canelo. He needs to be the aggressive. He needs to attack at all times. Yes, he's going to get countered. He's going to get hit with some good shots. But I think overall, I think it's all about timing. And that's why I started this video. It's about timing. And even though John Ryder, to me, does have the tools, the skills to win this fight, I just don't think he's going to do enough to win on the judges' scorecards, And I know this is a golden boy fight. I know we already know how the judges, I don't want to put it on the judges. I'm thinking about how the fight is going to actually go. And I think Jaime, in my opinion, Jaime is going to win on the scorecards. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be extremely competitive. I think John Ryder is going to have his moments. But is he going to win on the cards against Jaime Munguia? No, because in my opinion, Jaime is going to be more aggressive. He's going to be coming forward more. He's going to be throwing more punches. And even in those exchanges, I think him being in attack mode is just going to win over the judges. He's going to land some good shots too. He's shown to have a good step back uppercut. We saw that in the Deverenchenko fight. One thing about Jaime, I know he's not the most technically sound. I don't think he's the best counterpuncher, but he has some sneaky power, and he does land some sneaky shots in there that you got to look out for. And I think could possibly hurt John Ryder and make him fall back a little bit. Jaime Munguia is a guy that I don't think to beat super elite, even if he fights Canelo right now. Yes, the timing would be better for him to fight him now because it will be more competitive now than it would have been a couple of years ago. But he doesn't beat Canelo, in my opinion. He doesn't beat Dave Morrell. He doesn't beat Benavidez. You know what I mean? He doesn't beat, even a fight with Plant, I'm still unsure about. I think there are certain boxers that can really expose him. John Ryder is good, but I don't know if John Ryder is going to take that extra step to try to win the battle. I just don't know if he's aggressive enough. And I think this is why I'm leaning towards Jaime Munguia to win a competitive decision against John Ryder this Saturday. All right. Again, I will be here this Saturday. That's my prediction. Jaime Munguia on points. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Plus, like the video if you enjoyed the content. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.